Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. Thank you for this.
Yes, yes.
I had a very unusual experience last year. I'd like to share it with you.
All right.
It was after I was watching videos on the website Bashar TV. In particular, I had left off on the section entitled "Death and Afterlife." I was watching all your videos about that, and my uncle later on that week, my uncle passed away.
All right.
And so I was in a truck. We were leaving the Black Rock Desert whenever I got this text message from my dad saying my uncle passed away. And after thinking about the things you were saying, I I immediately decided I was gonna invite my uncle to communicate with me in some way. And so I spent a moment or two, and about an hour goes by. We're going down the road, and the driver was pointing to how low the lake was on the right, and neither one of us saw that there were four cows in the road, and we smashed into four cows going almost full speed, and had I basically had like a near death experience is what it felt like. I had feared for my life for a split second. And so it, is it possible that my uncle Steve was involved in the way that scenario unfolded?
Well, not in the sense that he placed the cows in front of you, if that's what you mean,
Well, that's reassuring.
but in the sense that he gave you an opportunity to utilize what you're calling a near-death experience to know that you are more strongly now connected to the idea of spirit by giving you an opportunity to not pay attention to what was there momentarily so that you could be given the opportunity to experience a stronger connection to spirit briefly.
Excellent. Yeah.
At the same time, it is pay attention to your physical surrounding because you could easily transition into spirit in the way that he did if you don't pay attention to what's going on right in front of your face.
All right. All right.
Now, I'm going to, well, he's going to make light of this situation a little bit by letting you know that all in all, it sort of wound up being a moving experience.
It definitely was.
Well, that comes directly from him.
All right.
But pay
Um,
attention to your surroundings because it's very easy when you don't do so to transition back into spirit. But you were given a choice to stay or go back, and you chose to go back because you weren't done.
wow.
So,
Wow.
again, being that this person seems to love the idea of humor and puns, now that he's on the other side in a different way, he would suggest that if you're going to choose to stay in physical reality, that you milk it for all it's worth.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I will definitely do that.
All right.
So,
Does that help you?
it definitely does. It's been on my mind for months now. This is
All
September.
right.
This happened.
All right.
Something that I'm fascinated to watch on the internet is people with Tourette's syndrome
Yes.
that do all sorts of funny things. Is this a type of channeling?
It's a type of short circuiting. It's an attempt to connect into a channeling state, but there's some short circuiting going on.
I see. For somebody who says that they're struggling with it, that they want them to go away, like what? How do they take ownership of this? How do they move forward from that?
Well, it will depend upon the person. There are any number of reasons why a person may have connected to this particular kind of an experience, and therefore you would have to have a more specific understanding of the specific person that's experiencing it and how they can deal with it in a different way. But in general, similar to the idea of epilepsy, it requires a coordination and harmonization of the different aspects of the left and right hemispheres of the brain through the center of the brain, the corpus callosum. So certain kinds of energy exercises or meditations that involve shifting your focus between the left and right hemispheres of the brain and centering the energy in the center of the brain in the corpus callosum can be of some assistance to some people. But of course, again, it depends upon the reasons why they may have chosen to have this kind of an experience.
Awesome, awesome. My other fun question is it possible or is it likely in our future that we'll connect our internet to other worlds or other timelines? of Earth?
Well, yes, although it won't be the internet as you know it now.
Okay.
But the idea of your exploration into quantum computing can make the connection to parallel realities possible.
Wow. Very, very cool. And then just one last thing. Do the hybrid children spend any time on TikTok?
A few of them have observed several things that exist on your internet for their educational purposes, but again, they don't spend much time.
All right. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You're welcome.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Shauna, and I live in Salem, New Hampshire. I have been in dialogue with you on a few occasions around the topic of the inner child. Most recently, we have discussed the false self. From what I understand, the false self is a personality that I created and that I project that experiences some limitations that are represented of the challenges I agreed to face, overcome, transform, and move closer to my true self. I also understand that we create a false self as a defense mechanism to protect the inner, more vulnerable true self and to help the child feel accepted and safe and to preserve their attachment to the original caregivers, mom, the parents. So I have a few questions. And I feel intuitively that I already know what the answer to these questions are, but I'm going to put them out there anyway. So first, do we come into physical reality with a structure of beliefs already in place? In that structure of beliefs that we bring into physical reality, can they contain already negative, fear-based, or limiting beliefs? Or are those created explicitly through our early childhood programming and conditioning? And my last question is, I understand that the real true self holds all of my beliefs based in positivity, love, and expansion. So am I to believe that the false self holds at its core all of the beliefs based in fear, negativity, and limitation? Thank you so much, Bashar. Aveo.
First of all, the true self is not negatively vulnerable in the way that you mean that. You might have created an inner child self that can experience negative vulnerability, but the true self is never negatively vulnerable. So there's no protection required for the true self. You're only protecting the self that you're referring to as the false self. Yes, you can come in with a belief system structure that is representative of the challenges you've agreed to face, and therefore many of them may already be negative in the terms of the programming that you're referring to. Some of them may be enhanced by the idea of the environment that you have also been born into, the parents, the schooling, the friends, the family, so on and so forth. So it can be a mix of things. But yes, it can come in with the idea of having certain parameters, certain limitations pre-programmed so that you will face the challenges that you agreed to face. It can be a mix of these different things. But again, the idea is that the true core self, the true core vibration is what guides you to examine and explore all these belief systems and limitations you have imposed upon yourself with agreements, one way or another, to allow you to break free from them and align the idea of your belief systems with the true core self, with the positive inner child, not the one that feels negatively vulnerable, and that the idea of the false, as you're referring to it, false self, can have a core of its own that carries these belief systems forward so that you will ensure that you will experience the challenges that you agreed to face. But they're not the same as the core true vibrations of your essential being. It's simply what might be referred to as the collective programming for the challenges that you decided to face.
Bashar, thank you so much for taking my questions today.
Yes?
So I would like to ask you today about my childhood near-death experience.
All right.
At the age of 7, I had a near-death experience, and I've come to understand that I was looking down at myself from an out-of-body experience.
Yes.
And while I was in that state, it was like I was surrounded by quicksilver or mercury, and a hand of a woman came out of everywhere and materialized over my eyes. And then another, like it was all mercury or quicksilver, and then another hand came over my solar plexus, and then it was like I got pulled up with a snap and a pop from my solar plexus, and then I couldn't see anything. But there was a discussion about how painful and prolonged it was all going to be, and am I sure I want to go back? And
Yes.
I said that I did.
Yes. These kinds of conversations with spirit guides are relatively typical in certain cases of near death.
So was I taken to the blue planet then?
No. You stayed in the electromagnetic energy of spirit and were given an opportunity to decide whether you wanted to move on or whether you wanted to go back to physical reality.
If I had chosen to stay dead, would I have gone to the blue planet, or would I have just died?
Well, what do you mean just died? Just died means you have choices to do other things. One of them could have been the choice to go to a blue planet, but you decided to come back to Earth, which is also considered a blue planet.
Oh, I mean the planet of the blue people.
Yes, you could have chosen that, but you knew that you had chosen originally to be on Earth for specific reasons, and therefore you wanted to finish that so you wouldn't have to necessarily repeat it.
Okay. So that brings me to the other part of this question, which is about when people use the term walk-ins, that is a misnomer, right? Because obviously my body is just the most crystallized part of my energy, right?
Yes.
There is no
Yes.
somebody else using my left hand while I use the rest of my body.
No, the idea of a walk-in is simply a shift in the awareness of the soul and the ability to express more of the individual soul through that physical form. It's not a different person coming in. The personality may shift to seem like a different person because personality is an artificial construct, and therefore it can be accurate to say it's a different person because that's the projection. But the soul is simply expressing more of itself. It's the same original soul.
Right, of course. But from the human society's aspect, they call you a walk-in because you kind of don't fit, right? Like from their side of view,
Yes.
it's like, well, we killed you fair and square. What are you doing here? Get lost, right? We don't have space for you anymore.
Well, no, but of course the idea is that you do have space because it is necessary and timely for that being to express more of its soul because that can be of greater service to the society, even if the society rejects it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the key there. Society not compatible though. You're not compatible with the
Well,
other people.
that's not always the case. Most walk-ins, in the sense that we're explaining it, are perfectly compatible. It's just the ones that happen to stand out as more different that become seemingly less compatible, even though, of course, there's a reason why they're there and expressing themselves that way, even though people may not get it. But there's more walk-ins and more shifting than you may think. It's just that most of them are compatible with the timing of having done so.
Right. So in terms of when you said in the mirror reflections transmission, somebody said
Yes.
that they broke their jaw.
Yes.
And you said that the purpose of that for them was to accelerate their shifting.
Yes.
And you said that sort of to me about my situations as well.
Yes.
The when you say accelerate the shifting, do you just mean making bigger changes in less time?
Yes. In other words, many people will create what appear to be accidents because it abruptly kicks them into a new understanding and a new perspective and accelerates their ability to move forward in a slightly different way, or maybe even a profoundly different way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bashar. I appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure. Thank you. Good day.